I'm Carl, and I'm joined by Codrin Stavri, otherwise known as V.
Hello.
You may have seen his YouTube channels, Romanian TV or Lack of Entertainment, and he has come all the way to England, not just for me, actually, because he was on holiday with his wife, but thankfully got him in the studio, so we're going to talk about a few interesting things. How you doing, man?
Hello, thanks for having me, and yes, it's very lovely to be here.
Good. I'm really glad to have you, man. We talk all the time, but it's so unusual to see you in person, so it's just weird for me. It turns out that when polled, Zoomers, especially young men, don't actually support women's rights. They've had enough of women's rights and they're more interested in talking about women's wrongs. I think this is a product of modernity. This is a product of the march of feminism, rigging the scales entirely in favour of women and treating men as if they're an oppressive class, which of course young men who don't have anything or any real experience in the world aren't, because they can't. They're just existing like the rest of us. And so it seems that they've realised this and they've become aware of the world around them. What do you make of that framing?
Well, before we can talk about it, we have to define what is a woman.
Well, that's
so
a
we
great
can
point.
talk about the rights. The Supreme Court of the United States nominated a judge recently. She couldn't decide what a woman is.
It's weird as well, because as soon as this conversation comes up, everyone already knows what a woman is. There's no question of what a woman is. But anyway, before we go on, if you want to support us, go over to lotus.com, sign up, and go and watch The Politics of Fight Club, because I think this is very pertinent to the subject. This kind of, as the thumbnail says, the banality of modernity. This malaise under which we find ourselves. I think the Zoomers are finding themselves in very much that kind of position. So let's begin with laying out the sort of the board, right, shall we? So as you can see, women outnumber men in US colleges and of course UK universities by a massive margin, by a 20% margin.
This is due to the diversity initiatives that were initially done when women were significantly outnumbered by men.
But even just on a point there, even like in the 60s, there was still 35% of university attendees.
And they wanted 50.
And now they've got 60.
Yes, when they got 50, they wanted the initiatives to keep going.
Yes.
So now you still have scholarships that promote women. You still have various institutions that help women. And the result is 60% of students that are women.
And weirdly, the women aren't demanding affirmative action for the men. They're not saying we're for equality. They're just going with the flow. But this is not just in the United States, of course. This is in universities all around the world. If you can go to the next one, apparently data from the UK's higher education admissions has shown that women are 36% more likely to apply to a university than a man. And this is happening in all around the world. They say Panama, Sri Lanka, Argentina, Cuba, Jamaica, Brunei. In Malaysia, they have 64% of university enrollments are female. Mad.
Christina Hafsummers was pointing out that this affects men as well, not just because they can't attend universities, but these are the husbands, the sons, the relatives of other women. And because they can't go to university, women who are looking to marry someone their own intellectual...
sort of pay grade.
Yeah, pay grade, but as well as an intellectual person that they can talk with, they're going to realize that the dating pool has shrunk significantly.
Or they're going to have to lower their standards. You're going to have to get used to dating grug.
I think it's more easy to get more men into university than convince the ladies to lower their standards.
Well, we have something we can do about it, actually. We can always explain that affirmative action is just racist. If you can scroll down a little bit on this, you can see that white women have benefited more from affirmative action programs than any other demographic. So that's always a way of getting rid of things. Declare them to be racist. Then they have to be taken away.
Yeah, but then you'll just have non-white women that are going. I mean, they want the affirmative action to still be there. They just want less white women.
That is true. And also, if we get rid of it, well, Harvard did a study as to what's going to happen if we get rid of it. And they say, quote, ending affirmative action programs will significantly decrease diversity in the workplace, disproportionately hurting Asian women, black women, and Hispanic men. And the thing is, legally, I don't think they can actually just say, right, we're going to have white women taken out of that, even though white men have been taken out of it. So, I mean, I don't see why not.
I guess they can pump more money into charities designed specifically to help women of color.
Maybe, but it's the actual policies of picking people based on their gender and skin color. I mean, they do it, so I don't see why they can't.
Didn't the White House recently said that they're going to grant aid after the hurricane specifically to people of color?
I believe Kamala Harris did say exactly that, because
so they can do it if they want.
Because, I mean, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, what are you going to do? They're the ones in charge. So that's the universities. Let's go on to the workforce. Apparently in the United States, according to the US Department of Labor, women are 46.8% of the labor force, which seems very high, doesn't it? That means like nearly every woman who can work is working.
You're asking me from Eastern Europe. That's how things should be.
Well, it's not how things should be in the West. I'll tell you that. 40% of women are the primary or co-breadwinner for their families. That's mental, isn't it?
No, that's normal here. I mean,
Yeah,
why do you stay at home? Go get to work, make money, earn a paycheck.
See, this is what they've done is reduced us to post-Soviet Eastern Europe levels. No, but honestly, though, I think that's staggering and not how things should be at all. But of course, the eternal problem is that only 8% of women are CEOs. I love this next article. If you can go to the next one.
How many are garbage cleaners and how many work in the sewers?
0%, actually.
Shouldn't we do something about that?
Not measurable quantities. There isn't 10 times more women who are CEOs than sewer workers.
Well, if we look at the top, we should look at the bottom, I think.
I agree, but that's not how affirmative action works. But anyway, I love the way that this article frames everything. Right, listen to this. There's a 92% chance this is a joke because roughly 8% of CEOs are women. Oh, the bitterness. You've only had every advantage up until this point. And now it's like, yeah, but we're not 50% of CEOs. The gender pay gap hasn't budged in 15 years. Sounds like it's shaming women at this point, doesn't it? Women, what are you, lazy? Get to work. Fortune want you to earn more money for the billionaires. This the United States is the only industrialized nation without federal paid family leave policy. So 1 in 4 American women returns to work just 10 days after giving birth. How's the pay for Romanian women?
I think it's 2 years.
Really?
From the government? Yeah. But Romania wants to have more children, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Meanwhile, as I understand in the United States, if you want to have an abortion in another state, the company is more than willing to help you out, facilitate the championing of women's rights.
It's weird that women are so eager to get into the workplace, isn't it? Because you'd think that a lot of them would be like, wait a minute, aren't I fueling capitalism? But anyway, they obviously complain that there are more chief executives named Michael and James than women who lead S&P 500 countries. And so they finish with, here's the kicker. The World Economic Forum says it'll take 135 years to reach global gender parity. This is a joke, right? We all know these facts, and maybe some of us have grown to accept them. It feels like progress has stalled and we're stuck in a time warp. Women have always been powerful. It's past time to let them lead the way. It's like, women, you're being lazy.
No, I can tell you the solution to this. Romania, out of the entire European Union, is the country with the least amount of gender pay gap and women not working. Yeah, impoverish the nation. No, I'm serious. Impoverish the nation.
Solve the problem.
Yeah, if you can't afford to have one income in the household to care for children, then both people need to work. And you're going to end up with the father looking at the daughter saying, no, you're not going to go to journalist school because I don't want you to be a parasite for the rest of your life. You're going to go to STEM. Yeah. You're going to learn how to be a doctor. You're going to learn how to take care of yourself. And I want you out of my house by the age of 22. So with that mentality, you're going to have equal amount of women in the workforce. They're going to try to become CEOs or whatever in order to make more money.
Well, I mean, maybe that's the case in Romania, but it's definitely not the case in America or in Britain either, because they can say, well, it's past time to let women lead the way, but then that just leaves us with an open door. We can't shove the women through it, can we?
But if you impoverish the nation, then their fathers are going to shove them through the door.
I guess they'll have to, because it turns out girls just don't want to lead.
Well, tough. They need to make money, so they can leave the household.
They keep surveying young women, girls aged 9 to 18, across all of England and Wales, and they were surprised to find that most were uninspired by today's political leaders and did not want to become leaders themselves unless they could manage people in a different way. They described office roles as unappealing. Don't want to work in those offices, but fewer than 10% CEOs. Fewer than 20% wanted to work in an office, 75% wanted to work flexibly, and 90% would like to work in an environment that best suits them.
It's because they don't think about money.
No.
If you don't think about money and you're just glorifying the position, then you're not going to realize what should motivate you in order to become a leader.
What's interesting, girls are twice as likely to say they do not want to do a job, they would rather do a job they enjoy than be rich.
Yeah, so you need to impoverish the nation, and then they'll want to be rich because they don't want to stay in the cold during the winter. They want to put food on the table, and with that motivation comes great inspiration.
At the moment, we fat Westerners are thinking of enjoying our lives. How dare you? That's not going to get gender parity, is it? You know, this is disgusting. They're 3 times as likely to prioritize being healthy and safe than to be a leader. They're not even going to take risks.
Yeah, not the good mindset, no.
No. How could you? No wonder they're not CEOs. And they're also twice as likely to prioritize being respected than being a leader.
They need an Eastern European father.
I tell you, no, I think what they need is for Fortune 500, the Fortune magazine that we just quoted, to write articles saying women are lazy and lacking in any kind of motivation and drive. Come on, women, you can do it. We've opened all the doors. We've given you all the affirmative action. Now you've got to get off your asses and get out there and win. Come on. Apparently, 42% of girls did want to take on leadership roles, but when asked to rank their career ambitions, being the leader was actually the lowest priority on a list of 17 attributes.
Really?
So they're like, yeah, I'd like to be in charge, but I don't want to be a leader. I mean,
all that pesky responsibility. Can you get rid of that?
well, it's a lot of stress, isn't it? You know, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of stress, long hours in an office. And weirdly, young women were like, well, I don't really want that. That doesn't sound very fun. Actually, I'd like to be my own boss. Only 33%, in fact, only want to be their own boss as well. So only a third actually want to be in charge of anything.
So they don't want to be entrepreneurs.
No, most of them not. But the ones who are very happy in what they do, according to the survey. So that's good. So anyway, this is the state of women in the West, right? So young women have got all of the opportunities. They're making up the majority of university positions. They're out. I should have got this in advance, but they're outperforming in earnings. Young women outperform young men in earnings. And so the Zoomers are like, well, hang on a second. What did we do wrong? And they're looking at this rigged system and saying, well, hang on a second. Why would I want more women's rights? Because I seem to be institutionally disadvantaged because I'm a man. Does this surprise you to hear?
No, because if you're a young boy in school now and you keep hearing that you have masculine privilege and toxic masculinity this, toxic masculinity that, that's what the professors and the media puts in your head. And then you look around you and you see, well, there's this place where women can apply in order to get into college, or there's this door and then this window. And you're wondering, well, but what is it for me? And you start trying to change the system because at the end of the day, most people care about themselves and their families.
It must be really insufferable as well to see all of these privileges open doors for women. And the women are like, I don't really want to. I'm not really interested. He's like, well, I'd love to, but I can't because I haven't transitioned yet. You know, like it must have been insufferable, right? So anyway, this was an EU-wide study that suggests that Western democracies have become increasingly gender equal over the past few decades, and there is a recent backlash against gender equality in the form of rising modern sexism. Well, that's good news, isn't it?
What is modern sexism compared to classical sexism?
A pale, inferior parody of it.
I see.
Furthermore, young men are more likely to see women's progress at their expense, and the trend is most prominent in areas with high unemployment and less trust in institutions. Researchers from the Department of Political Science at Sweden's Gothenburg University found that young men see themselves as being in competition with women and are therefore more likely to vote in favour of right-wing, anti-feminist political candidates.
Doesn't surprise me. People vote based on their interests.
Exactly.
Like, if you have a law that literally bars you or gives an advantage to other people, like, why would you vote for that?
But like, if you're a man, you've got no choice. You're going to get out and work. You know, if you're a woman, maybe you'll find a husband who's well off enough that you can stay at home or something like that, right, and raise the kids. You don't have that option as a man, really.
You know what? I'm curious. How do the mothers of those sons vote?
Well,
if you're a mother and you are stuck with the son that can't leave home because he can't find a job, how is she going to vote?
Maybe in favour of right-wing anti-feminist political candidates?
Probably.
Which is great to hear, frankly. I'm liking, the pendulum swinging like we were talking about just before the podcast. But what I find interesting about this is they're more likely to see that this is the case. Yeah, but it is actually also the case because you're introducing this competition into the workplace and giving them unfair advantages to push them artificially up the hierarchy. So they're not wrong.
No.
Like it's totally fair, right? And so one PhD student who worked on the research says this: some people believe that increased gender equality only benefits women and do not see the benefits for society as a whole. What are the benefits for society as a whole be?
Well, I guess you have more taxpayers, like
That's
double
great.
the work,
the
double the
lines going
taxes.
up, Brilliant. Some research suggests that this is a feeling of injustice that can even motivate citizens to vote for right-wing radical parties who are against feminism and sexual freedom. Based.
Where did sexual freedom came out of? This?
Well, that's a great question.
How did that whistle in?
But no, that's good. That's good. The study itself surveyed 32,000 people. Respondents were asked to state to what extent they agree with the statement that promoting women and girls' rights has gone too far because it threatened men and boys' opportunities. And the results show that young men aged 18 to 29 most often agree with this statement in our survey. The older the men are, the less they agree with this statement. Some women agree with the statement, but to a far lesser extent than men of all ages.
Yeah, well, probably those mothers are tipping the scale in the other direction.
Looking at their sons and being like, well, he wasn't loud because he's a man.
Yeah.
The results, of course, contradict previous research that claims that older generations are the ones who are the most conservative and opposed to advances in women's rights. I love this, right? This is the best part. The research said, possibly young men who believe that women are outcompeting them in the labour market experience advances in women's rights as unjust and a threat. We just need to get better at communicating the benefits of gender equality.
Well, I think when you show that 60% of the graduates are women, you're doing a fine job at communicating the gender inequality.
Fathers get, but the benefits for the men, right? Fathers get to spend more time with their children, and the burden of being the family's breadwinner is lightened when the mothers in families also advance in their careers. And it's like, okay, go and explain that to the young men who want the exact opposite of what you've just described. They want to be the breadwinner. They don't want their wife to be the breadwinner, assuming they can even get a wife because they don't earn enough money to impress a woman thinking that she can rely on him.
Yeah, I mean, this is a cultural difference. Again, in my country, both people are expected to work.
Sure,
so,
but ideally, they wouldn't, right?
I have no idea. I mean, it's such a different culture. You're being ingrained into this since you're born. Yeah, it's probably due to the remnants of communism that we had here. There.
Yeah.
And people are born to think that you have to work and provide, and the wife has to work and provide as well. But again, this is due to the nation being impoverished.
So but that's the thing, isn't it? Right. So they're like, yeah. So what we want is to get you in the same mindset as a post-communist impoverished nation.
Yeah.
I don't really want that. Weirdly, I don't think young men want that either.
No, like for example, my wife, she can stay at home if she wants to.
Yeah.
Because
you're a rich, successful man.
In Romania, right? Here I'm poor as hell.
Don't talk yourself down,
But she just doesn't want to. No, and it's not only that. Like we actually had the conversation. She can be a doctor and just stay at that level of the career. No, she wants to be a university professor. She wants to get a PhD. She wants to work hard. And this type of mentality, I don't know if it translates well into the West. If there are women who like legitimately want.
Well, there probably are. Yeah.
But I don't think my wife is an outlier. Like, I think she is the norm. Yeah, like most women in Eastern Europe, not just Romania.
So they're definitely trying to turn us into a post-communist country.
Yes.
God damn it.
Yes.
It's awful. But the thing is, like, this is very much what a woman thinks a man wants, right? It's, well, you get to spend more time with the kids and your wife will provide money, so you don't have to provide money. It's like, yeah, but that's my self-respect that's going down with that.
I don't think women want that, though. Like, even if you have a man who just wants to stay at home and play video games and spend time with the kids. Want that. I don't think a woman would put up with it. I mean, there are probably a lot of men that would like a superstar model to go to work, bring home the bacon, and then have sex with him.
But she's not going to get anything out of it.
But she's not going to want that. Yeah, like...
Yeah, well, that's the point, isn't it? She's going to lose respect for him because he's like... And I do actually genuinely think that if you're a man, you need to out-earn your partner. I do think it's a kind of... There's a level of respect that the woman, I think, loses when that's not the case. And I've seen so many like accounts from like people writing articles and women often writing articles being like, I'm 40 and I earn 100,000 a year and I can't find a man. I've never been able to find a man. So that's because you're the man.
So that's true even in Eastern Europe. Even when both spouses work, the man needs to out-earn the wife, because otherwise you notice there starts to be scandals in the family, like arguments and... it's interesting because like sometimes the woman gets a promotion, she out-earns the man, and that's when the scandals happen and the arguments, and then the man manages to out-earn her again, and then everything is fine. Great,
now I've got to compete with my own wife. God damn it, like if there's no end to it. But this I think does speak to something that's innate in humans, and no amount of communism can beat it out of us, right? It's like the women need to be able to look up to their men, and if he's like just some dependent on her, then she becomes contemptuous of him. She doesn't like find that impressive. And so she's not going to marry some guy who's earning half her wage. So these poor Zoomers who are like, well, I can't get on this ladder because I'm literally being actively prevented. They're not going to become fathers. So trying to explain to them, oh, by the way, as a father, you'll be able to spend more time with your kids. It's like, bitch, I'm an incel. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I earn $16,000 a year or whatever. I can't. I can totally understand why young men are just like, nah, this feminism stuff needs to stop.
It's also prestige, not just about the money.
Yeah.
So if you have a university graduate, let's say a woman that finished law school, she's not going to date the truck driver, which can even out-earn her.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Like, he can make more money than her, but just because he doesn't have a university, he's got no chance.
Prestige is a great point as well, because women, being very socially minded creatures, think, well, I need a man of high status. And like you say, the sort of plumber or whatever, he might earn like 70 or 80 grand a year, which is a really good wage. He out earn a university professor at like 50 grand or whatever. But, no one looks up to him. And I think I'm right on the money on that one. So, young men interested in talking about women's wrongs, don't blame them.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as this premium article on the terminal list and the conversion of James Reese, with an audio track for silver and gold tiers, of course. If you'd like to go and find out what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.